Welcome to the Watchers of Movies. My name is Lauren.
I'm Samantha.
And tonight we're going to talk about episodes 4 through 6 of I Am the Night, the miniseries from TNT. All right, you ready to talk about this disaster of a
I'm ready to be done with it. I'm so glad that this is almost done because I did not like the show. The show was so boring.
It was horrible, and I have a bunch of notes, which is what I'm looking for right now.
But all that aside, I thought Chris Pine's performance was really awesome. I thought his performance was awesome.
He was the best.
It was worth more than the show. Like, his performance should be plucked out and put into a show that's better because he deserves a better show to be on.
I know. Like, when are they gonna show us something that's about the Black Dahlia that's actually good? I mean, I'm sure that there's other stuff, but...
I don't know.
But, so, I was just thinking about this, but did you know that the guy who played, the dude in Chinatown who, had sex with his daughter was John Huston, who also apparently had raped Tamar at some point.
Wow.
Yeah. So, fun fact.
Interesting.
Fucked up family. And as we were talking about earlier, George Hodel has officially replaced my favorite serial killer, H.H. Holmes, as my new favorite serial killer. So, even though we talked about how I didn't think he was a serial killer. Let's not. I feel like it would be very gruesome.
He should be your favorite. Your favorite got away with it serial killer.
Yeah. Oh no, I guess H.H. Holmes didn't get away with it. I was like, H.H. Holmes did, but I'm like, well, no. I mean, no, he didn't. He got hanged for his.
He did?
Yeah, he did.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow,
he got hanged when he was in his 30s. He was in his his early 40s or late 30s.
If you're going to do crimes, do them in old age. Live your life first.
Yeah, do them in old age, or
but
just be born in a time when DNA wasn't a thing.
Yeah,
oh, H.H. Holmes was born in a time when DNA wasn't a thing.
Don't murder people.
Don't murder people.
Don't be cruel to women. Yeah. I mean, I'm talking bank robberies and things like that.
Yeah. If you're going to commit
crimes.
Victimless
I guess that's not
crimes.
Victimless because people's money gets...
No. Actually, bank robberies are victimless crimes because everything is insured. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But just do it later in life so you can still live and be young and fall in love and have a family and then do some crimes.
Yeah, exactly.
And
everyone will be like, they're so old. How could they rob a bank?
Yeah, I'm old.
I've never robbed a bank
before.
That's
what you say when you're on the stand.
Yeah.
Look at me. All I do is eat moon pies.
Moon pies.
Yeah.
I love my eggs sunny side up. I don't know.
I've heard so many old people saying that. It's ridiculous. Just every time every time I saw my grandma, I was like, Grandma, I know you I'm not even making you eggs. And she was just like, Shunny, shut it up.
I thought you were serious.
Oh, no.
I was so excited. I was like, I got it right. No.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'll get over it. All right, let's talk about this horrible TV show.
So, episode 4 I did not like.
I liked it better than the rest of the series.
Ugh, it was boring. But then,
Wait, is that the one where Sepp attacks her?
Yes.
Okay.
So, let's just start by saying India Isley, who plays Fauna Hodel, is not right for the role.
No.
She's very boring. I think she is very pretty, and I think in the right scenario, she's a good actress. I just think this story was so slow, and I don't know if she portrayed her character very well because from what I gathered, but just based on the show, not based on anything I know about the Hodels, just based on the show, she kind of had a sheltered existence. I mean, she saw, racial segregation and probably some violence in that regard where she lived in Nevada with Jimmy Lee. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, her eyes were opened that the world is violent, I'm sure. but she lived it was just her and her mom, her and Jimmy Lee.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she went to school, she had friends, she was a normal young girl, she worked in a hospital that was run by nuns. Nothing in her life seemed like it would, like, toughen her.
Yeah.
And they had that scene at The Happening where Chris Pine brutally... I mean, okay, so she gets attacked by Sepp.
Right.
And Chris Pine brutally murders him. In self-defense, sort of. But she was just, like, unfazed. She took action. She was like, we gotta clean off the murder weapon. We gotta dispose the body. I know a place where we can dispose the body. And I thought, where did this woman come from? Because she's supposed to be a 16-year-old girl, basically from, like, Podunk, Nevada.
Right.
And I didn't think... And she was so weird and, like, monotone and methodical about it.
Well, she, like... It's like... She seemed like she almost got over it right away. Like, she was like, oh, I just got attacked and almost murdered. But, you know... Like, I'm fine now.
Yeah.
And I
she
looked
watched-
up some stuff about
Oh, okay.
shock and psychological shock. Go on. I can't talk. Go on.
No, I want to get to that. I'm just, like, Chris Pine murdered him with a wrench.
Yeah.
And Chris Pine...
It was like a sharpened wrench.
Yeah, and
It was
Chris
weird.
Pine was like, let's just leave the body. And she watched a relative stranger. Like, he's pretty much a stranger. They had one interaction before this.
Well, and not only that, but when she saw him at The Happening, she, like, ran
she
the
ran
other
away
way.
from him, yeah.
So... He's not even aware that she's there, as far as we know, as far as
Mhm.
the audience knows. But he somehow knew to attack Sepp at the right moment.
Yeah,
that
in,
he
like,
was
a weird
about to,
basement
like...
area.
What was he gonna, like slit her throat or
I
something?
don't
Or
know
stab
exactly
her or
what
whatever?
he was doing, but he was probably going to kill her. I'm pretty certain.
Well, he did say, beforehand that he was sick of, like, George not letting him, like, do the work or whatever.
Yeah.
So he was gonna do his own work, which was
Artistic,
fauna,
yeah.
right? And then he had that, like, creepy mask or whatever, which is kind of weird because it was one of the masks that the girls were wearing in
I
that
noticed that.
second episode or whatever.
Yeah.
So, like, what, they've had these masks lying around for, like, 20 years or something?
I assume they
Like-
have a whole room full of creepy stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know.
But she wasn't even afraid of Chris Pine. Like, I know she was probably grateful to him because he saved her. But at the same time, she didn't show, like, fear or trepidation towards him. She was just like, let's work together. We got to take care of this body now. And then they go back to his place, and she's like, I know where Tamara is. Let's go to Hawaii. And I thought, you don't have any fear of this man who you don't really know murdering another man right in front of you?
I know, and, okay, so when Jay murdered Sepp, I actually thought that he was biting, like, on the side
Me
of his
too!
neck.
I thought he was like
You
Mike
did too?
Tyson. No, I
Like,
thought he
and
was
I
biting
thought
his ear off like Mike Tyson.
Yeah, that's
or
what I
something.
thought too, like, or
Yeah.
something, and I was like, is he biting him?
I thought the same thing.
And I heard, like, a noise, and so I thought that's what I
like
heard.
a fleshy noise.
Right, I didn't
Mhm.
realize it was, like, him stabbing him because he was at such a weird angle, or the way
Yeah.
that it was
I thought they were
filmed was
necking,
such a weird
like
angle.
Lover's Lane or something.
They're,
yeah,
like,
no,
making
I
out.
agree. Yeah.
He's making out with the Russian. Did you see
Mm.
how I was like, I texted you and I was like, oh, Sepp is Russian, I'm so done. Because of, like, Stranger Things, you know? Like, I was just like, I'm so tired of all the Russians. No, Russians are great. I'm sure they're great people, but I'm tired of Russian villains because it's ridiculous, over the top, and it's like, oh my god, be creative.
They could
with
have.
your
I mean, why
villains.
didn't they just make him like Ukrainian or
Yeah,
Latvian or something? If they
like,
wanted him
or
to be like maybe
Italian. He looked Italian.
I was thinking maybe the actor can't do any accent but like Slavic, so maybe they're
But
like.
I think he had an American accent.
I'm just making.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so I did look up the symptoms of psychological shock.
Oh, good.
The hallmark symptom of shock is a surge of adrenaline. You may feel jittery or physically ill, like you're going to vomit or have diarrhea. Your mind will feel likely very foggy or like you can't think straight. You may feel out of body. Your chest may feel tight. You may feel a disconnection from what's happening, like you're watching a movie of events unfolding rather than actually being there. You may feel intense anger and want to scream or yell. You may feel like you want to run. So, out of all of these symptoms, which I feel like you would at least feel a couple of them, she really only had the disconnection from what's happening, kind
Yeah,
of.
I
And
can
even
see
that,
that.
she really didn't have that, you know?
Right.
It
Even
was
then
like...
it was like she
well, and a
killed.
surge of adrenaline, too.
I guess. But, I mean, it was almost as if she's killed like 15 other people, and she took, like, Jay is a grown man who's been in
really
war.
is a Hodel.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, maybe that's the message. Maybe we missed it completely. Remember that one time we were watching that terrible Christmas movie?
Excuse me. Terrible. I bought that movie.
We were watching
I
that,
found
like,
it at Barnes & Noble for $5.
Oh my god. We were watching this made-for-TV Christmas movie, and there's
It's
a
called
shot...
The Kiss for Christmas.
The Christmas Kiss?
The Christmas Kiss. Sorry, it's a Christmas kiss. Yeah, you're right.
And there was this shot of a wreath, like a public wreath, and half the lights were burned out, and I said something like, oh, maybe that's symbolic that, like, they're only living half their lives right now because they haven't found each other. And Lauren gets this, like, light in her eyes, and she goes, oh my gosh. And I said, Lauren, stop this right now. Do not look deeper into A Christmas Kiss. I'm just joking.
She was like, Lauren, do not look for meaning in this.
It's a terrible...
Great.
I didn't like the movie that much, but...
I loved it. I watch it every Christmas, except for last year, but last year was just a shitty year. Anyway.
So maybe too busy not looking for symbolism in something terrible that I missed the symbolism that she's a Hodel and it's in her blood.
Yeah. I mean, and especially if George is her father, then she's definitely got some psychological issues, because that ain't right. Like, you get a lot of, we've been over and over again about Charles II of Spain, so.
Yeah. The Habsburg jaw.
Oh, she's a mess.
She's got the Hodel murder instinct.
She does, yeah. But, yeah, no, the whole thing was so weird. She's just like, oh, we have to get rid of the body. And I was kind of like, just leave him there. Like, I mean, what's really going to happen? Like, take the weapon with you. Leave him there. Nothing's going to happen, really.
Well, I mean, somebody's going to find the body.
Well, I mean, they're going to do an investigation.
The two people, like the two drunk people came down and they were like, hey, Fauna, is that guy passed out? And,
they had no idea.
Which is pretty cliche, like, dead guy passed out at a party.
Well, and did you notice that was the girl, that was the lady that was talking to her, and then the guy that came up to her, and she's like, let me know in, like, 5 more drinks, or 3 more drinks, or whatever, and then, like, they'll hook up, and then they did, I guess, so.
Yeah.
But they came across that murder. They didn't realize it was a murder. Yeah, I don't know. I really felt like India Isley's performance was very much lacking, and I felt like that through the entire series.
I did too.
It was just like she didn't emote enough, and it was like what you said, like she it was like, and part of it's the writing. She didn't ask the right questions. It's just I don't know. I didn't feel a lot of connection with her, and I still didn't, even after all that time. I didn't really care, you know?
For somebody so savvy about how to, like, cover up a murder, she's not very savvy about keeping herself secret, keeping herself safe, asking the right questions. And I wanted to see some scenes of her in a library on a microfiche, looking at old articles about George Hodel, digging into things. But instead, she just, like, went places... guns blazing.
She did.
Like, she went to the happening and she was like, do you know Tamar Hodel? My grandmother is Corinna Huntington. And I was like, geez, girl, there is a man that's following you. Your grandfather is acting super elusive.
Right.
Nothing is adding up. Somebody got murdered and his tongue was tied in a knot and you thought it might be because of you. Why are you so naive? And why are you so bad at getting information? But then... Jay murders this guy, and you're, like, large and in charge.
Yeah.
It was like, and it was almost like they filled the set with Jell-O on her scenes and had her move through the Jell-O. That's how slow and just, like, painful.
Yeah,
when she would come on screen, I would be like, oh my gosh, no.
I know. I'm like, tell me the story about Jay. I want to know, like, because I thought Chris Pine was the best part of the entire series. I mean, I really like the guy that played George Hodel, but they... Well, wait. Actually, let me tell you one thing really quick, because you said about Nero, who got his tongue tied in a knot. So... I actually think that he was based after Fauna's cousin named Johnny.
Oh.
Because Johnny had, like, called her and he was, like, hey, you know, like, he was saying all this stuff, like, he's, like, hitting on her and everything, and then he died. He got killed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, within, I don't know, a couple days or whatever.
Oh.
So, I thought that was interesting, and I was like, oh, so I guess that Nero is based in fact, but then they never mention him again,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
weird. But he wasn't ever a big part of the story. But like, well, first of all, I hate when they do that in shows anyway.
yeah.
Like with
Brutal
Stranger Things,
murder.
they never mentioned Barb again. Like,
Well,
and
they
there was
mentioned her.
Nancy. Well, I know,
Well,
but
they
like,
mentioned her in season 2. Actually, a
but
lot of season 2 was about Barb because
oh,
Nancy wanted
that's
to blow the
true.
lid off.
That's true. Anyway, but they tend to do that in shows.
No, I agree.
You
Like
said,
Nero, like they had this whole scene where everyone was horrified at how he was murdered.
yeah.
But I think the only reason they made him get murdered was so we could be like, oh, now Fauna has a place to dispose this other body because they, I assume, put him in the same spot.
They did,
that
yeah,
Nero
yeah.
was in.
Because remember, Jay was or no, it wasn't Jay. It was Terrence that was talking to that homeless dude.
Yeah.
And the homeless guy was saying a bunch of interesting stuff, but then Fauna took off and was like, "This is too much to handle."
Also, the homeless guy was like giving away clues as to how they could find the murderer, the guy who disposed of the body. So I wasn't really sure why she was like, "Let's drop another body here," because he seems like a credible witness. And
Yeah.
but that never come back either.
There was a lot of, I felt like, loose ends that were
Mhm.
left, loose.
Yeah.
Loose ends. It just, I was not impressed, and like in the ending, like the next day, I was legitimately like in a horrible, not like a horrible mood all day, but I was like in a slightly bad mood all day because of the way that ended. I was just like, oh, whatever, can't believe they did that. Like, I was so mad about it.
So frustrating. I thought the show could have been good. I think if they hit like page 1 rewrite, let's have Fauna move a little faster. Let's have Fauna do some research.
Emote more.
Let's have her learn what her family's like. Let's emphasize George Hodel more because he was an interesting character.
He was super interesting.
And let's have her, I don't know, maybe find her mother sooner. Maybe go into George Hodel's possible crimes a little bit more.
Right.
It's just the journey itself. Like, the movie itself was supposed to pose this, like, mysterious journey, and it fizzled out.
Oh, my God.
It was a dud.
Well, like, and the whole point of her trying to figure out, like, where she came from is to find her mother, and that whole thing lasted maybe 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It was like, you're writing an entire show about this girl who's trying to find out who Tamar is, who her mother is, and Tamar's mentioned or seen for like 10 minutes tops. I mean, it's just, and her whole, I don't know, there was a lot of moments where I thought like everything was happening super fast paced, like way too fast for the story.
No, I agree. Like, I feel like they would take their time on pointless things, but then things that were actually interesting, they'd be like, and it's done.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
Like, and then, I don't know, and then I thought it was kind of weird when she was in the car with Jay when he was like screaming and she woke him up. Remember, she woke him up because he was screaming. And
how did she hear him screaming? She was
I
in a
have
hotel.
no idea.
And he was in a car.
There's no fucking way that she would have heard him.
Is she like a bat?
Or is she like standing outside?
Yeah.
Seeing me screaming like, Jay, are you okay? Are you okay, Jay? I heard
Jay.
Did I hear something? Nothing? You okay? Okay, good. It's. And then he's going on and on about how, like, murdering people felt good. That was so odd to me. I was just like, and I kind of get what he meant, but to me, it seemed like a scene that was, like, really unnecessary. And also, if that were me and I was this girl, I'd be like, maybe we shouldn't travel together because you just told me it felt good to murder people.
Well, I thought that little monologue was kind of good. Like, as a psychological peek into, if it's a life or death situation, and it's either kill or be killed, it might actually feel kind of good to be victorious. Does that make sense?
No, I can see what you mean.
I'm not saying I want to snuff out a human life. That feels good. I'm just saying, like, the relief that comes from knowing that you're not going to die and you've actually overpowered somebody, in the right situation, might actually feel kind of good. And I thought that he was kind of. Was he tying that to, like, feeling guilty about feeling good? Like, it's kind of like he
I
had
don't
shame about it, but
know.
he was still alive and the people in the war. Like, he was talking a lot about, like, the people
Right.
in the Korean War that he had to kill. Like, you know, he was still alive because he was victorious over that situation. But I'm not saying, like, it's good. I'm not.
No. I
I'm
got
just,
you.
I
got
kind
you.
of understood that sort of psychology of, you know, I would be dead right now if I hadn't killed them. So there might be sort of a thrill in that, I guess.
No, I can understand what you mean. I thought the scenes where he was dreaming about the people that he killed were pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
They were not like spooky, but so like just matter of fact. I felt,
Yeah.
But I liked that. I liked that they did that because it showed this like haunted past of his.
Yeah, like they're not doing anything. They're just standing in his
Right.
apartment, which goes to show like they're always on his mind because.
Right.
And I think he said something like that to her, like if you kill someone, they're always with you or something.
Right.
So then Sepp was like included in the bunch after he killed Sepp.
Right.
So yeah, I agree. I thought that was interesting. Like his issues were really fascinating.
Well, he was an interesting
but the
character.
show itself,
yeah,
I feel like in a way having the show be about the Hodells was sort of cheap when they had such a rich storyline with this made-up character of Chris Pines.
Yeah.
So they should have done 2 different shows, a Hodel show and then maybe a show about somebody with PTSD or somebody, you know.
Right, or just connect it just to the Black Dahlia or like to George Hodel and the Black Dahlia, but not include Fauna.
Yeah.
Because that would have been more interesting if it was a fictional character like Jay who is convinced that, George Hodel had killed the Black Dahlia and Fauna had nothing to do with it. Because I was totally bored by Fauna. I was so fucking bored by Fauna. Like,
that's the title of my next album. So fucking bored by Fauna, but it's not about Fauna Hodel.
I've ever heard you say the F word. I don't know.
You get one.
Get one. I've heard you say shit before, and it was glorious, but I did not get to bask enough in that F word.
That was just, and it wasn't even original. I was repeating what you said.
I know.
So
oh, it was great.
Maybe if we're still doing this next year, I'll say it again.
You'll say it again next year? Okay. 2020, that's my year. Of Sam saying fuck. Okay, yeah. Let's see. I have more notes here. So I wrote down a ton of stuff about like what was true and what wasn't true because I was very pissed about that because it's such an interesting and compelling story already. Why do you have to have this horrible, stupid ending?
Well, it's like the saying, like, truth is stranger than fiction.
Yeah, but
it's like, no, it's like these people, they saw a true story and they said, well, this isn't strange enough, let's make it weirder. But instead of making it weirder, they made it more boring.
Yeah, they did.
Anyway, keep going.
I mean, I don't necessarily want to talk about the end right now. I'd
no,
rather,
we've
like,
got some time.
Yeah. But, so one of the things that did bother me, and I said this before in, like, the pre-episode about George Hodel and everything, was that Tamar she had 4 other kids other than Fauna.
Mm-hmm.
So she had Debbie, she had love, she had peace on earth, and joy to the world. And
if that doesn't tell you that she was a little cocked in the head, then I don't know what will.
She was definitely probably doing some drugs. I would imagine she was definitely doing some drugs.
If you had the past that she had.
Yeah, I would probably do drugs too.
Yeah. Hard drugs.
Yeah, hard drugs. But she said, oh, I love the name Fauna so much I used it twice. And I was like, okay, that's not true. Because her daughter was named Debbie, and then Debbie later changed her name to Fauna because Tamar was a horrible mother and she just wanted attention and love from her mother. And so she decided to use the name of the baby that she had given away because Tamar would not stop talking about the baby that she gave away.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a sad story. Like, I think, did you ever see the Magdalene sisters?
Mm-mm.
I think the movie Philomena also touched on this, but the Magdalene sisters was about these Irish girls in Ireland, they're not like immigrants, they're like actually in Ireland, who are sent away to this convent for various reasons, like if you were caught sleeping around, or if you got pregnant, or if they thought you were like vain or something, they would send you to this convent, and the nuns would sort of like whip you back into shape, you know?
Man, history hates
And
women.
like Philomena is based on a true story, and it's about a woman who, which I think a lot of women had this, and I think it was also in Ireland, where they would get pregnant out of wedlock.
Mm-hmm.
So they'd get sent to this convent, and as soon as they had the baby would get taken away and put up for adoption. They'd never see the baby again.
Oh my God.
And so this movie Philomena is about a woman who had this happen to her, and she's looking for her child. Like, she's very old. I think Judi Dench plays her.
Oh, okay.
And she's looking for her grown
familiar.
child who was taken away from her. So the story of Tamar is actually, like, super sad, if that's actually what happened in real life, how she had to go to a convent for 9 months or whatever, give birth, and then you never see your child again. They whisk them away, and they're put in.
Well, she had an abortion.
But Fauna was alive.
No, she had an abortion by her when she got impregnated by George.
Mm-hmm.
She had the abortion, and then later she got. What she said is that she got raped by some white guy. That's what she told Fauna when she met her in real life.
Oh, okay.
That George was not her father.
Oh,
that she
okay.
got raped by a white guy, and it's just like, and she didn't like either. She didn't want to say the name, or she didn't know, or I don't know, something like that. So, but she got sent to a convent after the incest trial, after she had the abortion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she had the abortion first, and then the incest trial happened. So, yeah,
I see.
that's what happened, and then she got sent to the convent. So, which, I mean, either way, her father, was a total, predator and completely broke her trust. And there's like this whole part in the Root of Evil podcast where she's telling Fauna about how he was like teaching her how to give him oral sex and stuff like that. And yeah, like it's really nasty, and like
oh gosh,
Tamar's like telling
gross.
the story, and she's like laughing as she's telling it, but like
it's really Tamar.
Yeah, it's really Tamar. And then I saw an actual video of her saying like the same thing, so like an interview of her saying the same thing, and she was just very like casual about it, like it was nothing, and I mean just the whole like there's I mean I didn't go into a lot of like what I did here on the podcast because it's a really dark story, but I told you enough for you to understand that it's a very, very messed up situation.
Is she still alive?
No, Tamar died in I don't know. I don't remember when she died, but I don't know if she died after George or whatever, before him. But yeah. So, but they said that, like, she was, like, obsessed with her father and stuff. Like, I don't know. It was just, maybe I made that up. Maybe that was from the show. Anyway, it's a very dark story. It's a very, and, like, she was, like, 12 when he started to get her to do that. And, like, yeah. So, there's this whole thing where they said after she had the abortion that there was someone that took her and he like raped her afterward, and George wasn't mad about the fact that she got raped by some guy or that a guy raped her, but the fact that she might get an infection. Was like, where are your priorities here?
That's so weird.
Yeah, I mean,
how old was she when Fauna was born?
I think like 16.
Okay.
She was pretty young.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Fauna was born and given away. So, I mean, the whole story is really dark, but Tamar is such an interesting character that I wish they'd gone into more about her, and especially since the whole thing was based on Fauna wanting to, meet Tamar. Like, it's like, don't focus so much of the story on that, though, if you're only going to have that be a tiny part in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Although I did like the scene, I have to say, I did like the scene where they're walking on the beach, and Tamar goes, "Oh, George, he made love to me," and like the music gets like really like loud and like pounding, and you can see Fauna's just like, oh my God.
The realization that he might be her father.
Yeah, and she's like walking away. And I thought that was well done. I like that part. I find myself liking little bits and pieces of the show, but as an overall, no. I didn't like it. I like the dark stuff. I like the darker scenes. I mean, I like the scenes where I really liked when Jay was looking at George's collection.
I even thought that scene, I mean, I had to look away because it was pretty disturbing, but I thought it was it's alright. It's
okay.
I thought it was a really well done
dark.
scene when he was looking at the paintings and they were flashing the paintings and then the corresponding crime scene photos of the murdered women, and how he was tying the paintings, like these crime scenes were mimicking these paintings, kind of. I thought that was really powerful, and even though once I realized what was happening, I didn't look.
Right.
But I thought that was really cool, and if the whole show had been like that, it might be a really fascinating show.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I think that they had a lot of strong build-up with certain parts. I'm not saying the entire thing, but there's definitely, that scene was really powerful and really interesting, and, I mean, he's looking at these. I like how the realization, slowly came to him. He was kind of like, huh, George Hodel, interesting. Then he was like, wait, whoa, and then he's, and then he saw the painting of the keyhole in the girl's body.
Oh, did he? Because I didn't, I wasn't looking, I think, when I got to that part.
She had, a piece of flesh missing.
Did Elizabeth, that was Elizabeth Short, she had that.
She had, the keyhole, but I think he was thinking of, Janice, whatever her name was, remember?
In the beginning?
Yeah.
The one that he was in the morgue?
Yeah, the one that, the body that they showed. And corresponding her with all these other paintings and everything, but that was such a cool and well done scene, and that's actually the scene that made me want to watch the show. Because I saw it in a gift set, and I was like, wow, this looks really cool. And then I watched the show, and I was like, just kidding.
Well, I think that scene is super deceptive, because if that was the only scene that you saw from the show, you would think the show was totally different.
Exactly.
Almost pretty much 100% different than it actually was.
Exactly.
So it's a good scene, but it doesn't fit with the rest of the story.
It doesn't, no. Yeah. And it made me just think, oh, maybe it's about, I don't know what I thought, but I was just excited because I was like, oh, this is really interesting and this is well done and everything. But man, I mean, they really kind of let you down in this whole thing,
Yeah.
I
would say. I think that I totally agree with you that they would go through things that were interesting super fast, and then it would just be so much thinking in between that was just ridiculous. And Jay's whole motivation was pinning the Black Dahlia murder on George Hodel. Fauna's whole motivation was figuring out where she came from, and I guess Fauna got what she wanted. But Jay's storyline is just...
It was left in the air.
It was left. So I'm not sure why he was even in the show to begin with, honestly.
No, I know. I mean, he, and then he had to, escape because of... Why did he have to leave again?
Because I think well, he beat up the cops.
Oh, that's right. He's escaping prison. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's right. He signed the confession for Janice, whatever her name was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then he was he's like, let me go. I'll kill George Hodel. And then I'll come back here and I'll spend the rest of my life in prison.
Why though?
I thought that was such a weird part too.
It was such a dumb, the last episode, that happened in episode 6, right? Because in episode 6, I started thinking, I just have to get through this for the podcast, and I was almost
you and
angry.
I both. I'm so sorry I brought you into this.
I hated the last episode so much because it was so dumb and it was boring.
It was bad.
And the things that were happening, I was like, why is this happening? I watched 5 episodes, and all I wanted was something for my time, and episode number 6 did not fulfill that.
No, it did not, and I think we should get to the end eventually. It was so disappointing, and it was just why
did he want to go to prison for the rest of his life?
I don't know, and there was no reason for him to go. Yeah, he wanted to save Fauna. He knew that George was going to do something bad to Fauna, and he thought, if I can get Fauna safe, then this will be, it'll be worth it or whatever.
Also, no, I know that George Hodel is a monster.
Yeah.
He obviously slept with his daughter, potentially fathered more than one child with her. So I know that. But I don't understand in the show how his singular motivation was to paint her, assault her, and murder her. That was
I
his
don't
whole
either.
reason. I can't believe, I refuse to believe that the real George, even the real George Hodel, was that, like, single-minded. You know what I mean?
No, and I just...
Like, and why did he dodge her for 6 episodes? Just if his end goal was just to, like, take her to his murder basement, paint an awkward picture of her, possibly assault her, and then kill her.
I don't...
Because he could have done that.
know.
He could have done that in Nevada when she was walking home from work.
I don't know, but I think we should get to that a little bit later since it is the last
scene. Right. I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. You're fine. Because I really want to get into that.
Did you have more notes that you wanted to...
I have a shit ton of notes. So, let's see, what else? Oh, so, I wrote this down, but I can't really remember now, but I said the way that George stretched out the word grand in granddaughter when he was asking Fauna to stay.
Oh.
It was really creepy. I really liked the actor.
I liked the way he talked.
I thought he was great.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, he had like a mid-Atlantic sort of... Yeah. I don't know if that's the word for it, but like sort of like a New England sort of prob...
Yeah, it was like a very... It wasn't... I mean, so we're from the Midwest. To all those who are listening, we're from Michigan. So we kind of have like a more nasally accent, you know? But you're right. He had like almost like a refined sort of
like
right. Yeah, it was great. I mean,
yeah, I liked it.
But okay. Oh, so George coming to Jimmy Lee's house. Let's talk about. Oh, wait. Yeah, let's talk about that. Okay.
Let's talk about...
So, he never... I wrote this down because I was so mad. I said, George did not fucking stab Jimmy Lee, and I'm so mad about it.
Well, nothing in that storyline made sense because...
Why would he kill her?
No, he just showed up. So she's on the phone with Fauna and she's crying and because they're having a really nice moment. And she's like, Fauna, you're all I've got. And then out of the blue, George is like standing in the doorway and then she's like, don't you ever come back here, you hear?
It was so weird.
And then George stabs her. And then George goes back to Los Angeles. And Fauna's like crying because Jimmy Lee told her not to come back because Fauna doesn't know that George was in...
Right, and I'm assuming Jimmy Lee told her that to keep her safe.
Yeah, I assume, but then somebody, like, runs into Jimmy Lee's house and saves her, and she ends up living at the end. So I don't know, what was the point of her getting stabbed?
There was no point. And it didn't happen. It didn't even happen.
It's not real, and it didn't serve anything in the plot.
No, it's like, it only showed that he's a psychopath, and it's like, dude, we know. Like, we know he's a psychopath, you know? Like, it's, like, I don't know. I wish that they'd gone... more into him being a psychopath, but not stuff that wasn't truthful. You know?
Yeah, because there's so much stuff that he possibly did. That...
I mean, yeah, it's just, I just got very upset about it because it was just like, again, it's such an interesting and compelling story without all the falsities to it, you know? Mm-hmm. You don't need to add all the shit that happens. Or maybe, I don't know, don't make it about Fauna Hodel. Like, make it about, you know, they could have still talked to Fauna Hodel when she was alive and been like, hey, we want to do a story about you and your family and not made it about her, maybe made her way less of a part of it, you know?
Well, I think the story could have been, like I said earlier, I would have liked a story about her finding out where she came from, but actually finding out where she came from. Not present day, my dad, grandpa, wants to rape and murder me, which is weird. I would rather have it be like...
my dad, grandpa. I mean, I know.
Fauna Hodel finds out she's adopted, and then she does research, and then we see all the horrible things that he's accused of before she even came into the picture, and then we learn how she possibly came into the picture. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
We don't need, like, present-day crimes involving Fauna, because the past was full of stuff that they could have done the show on, and she could have been discovering the same as us.
Right.
Where she came from, which would be horrifying, you know?
Well, horrifying, but, like, interesting overall, you know? And it just, it's just, I mean, like, so when I texted Emily on the other side of the state, Emily, not blonde Emily, I I was like, man, I'm so mad that they did this. It was like totally false. And she's like, right, because Hollywood makes everything super truthful. And I'm like, I know, okay.
Yeah.
But can you like just be on my side for this?
Well, and like after every episode, they'd show black and white pictures of the real people and the real things. And so they led you to believe that the things happening in the show are pretty
historically accurate, right?
Which I agree with Emily. Like, Hollywood is notorious for changing history.
I mean,
but
I know.
At the same time, they did some weird things with it. They really manipulated the story in a way that I didn't think was conducive to the telling a good story.
I don't think so either. But also, not only that, but it's like it was just not done well. It was like all these like really emotional parts that should be longer and more compelling were so short and so quick that I was like, I don't even have time to get attached to these characters other than Jay, who I'm already attached to Chris Pine anyway, because he's like one of my favorite actors, I would say, probably. That might be a little bit of a stretch, but it's not too far from the truth. But anyway, I like him.
I like him in whatever he's in.
Yeah,
he always steals the show, I think. So
I think
would
he's
agree
a great
with
actor.
He's a great
right.
actor, yeah.
And I think he did a fantastic job in this. And in fact, I think he was probably, other than George, the most interesting part of it. You know. But you know, when you make a show about a specific person, and then no one, like, well, I'm saying no one, meaning you and I, cares about that specific person because they're so boring, then you've done something wrong.
Yeah, and I think that I'm wondering if they were going for like naive and innocent, but instead what came off was just like boring and dull.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a fine line, and maybe the actress is too brooding for a naive and innocent role.
Because I've seen her in other stuff, and I've liked her in that.
Well, I looked up her filmography, and it seems like she's in, like, scary movies.
Yeah.
So I could think, okay, she kind of has, like, a angelic sort of look.
Right.
Like a darker, big eyes, you know? So she's like, sort of pretty in the... I could see how she could play, like, a dull sort of innocent... Well, I said... Like a dull sort of horror movie character that's kind of compelling.
A doll?
Dull, like D-U-L-L.
Okay,
She's like sloth-like. Like, I don't think she does think she will do anything fast.
Right.
But in a horror movie, I could see how she could kind of be mysterious. And that would work. But she's not innocent and naive. Like,
no.
Like Rey in Star Wars. Daisy, what's her name?
Daisy Ridley.
Daisy Ridley is really good at being, like, wide-eyed, innocent, naive.
Yeah, she's got, like, a really cute, like, soft, sweet look about her. Yeah.
So she does that really well, and I just don't think India Isley has that.
No. And it's like
what okay.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, it's like what we were talking about before, is that actors need to play to their strengths.
Right.
Like with Henry Cavill, like, he's a good comedy actor, but it's a more serious action-y comedy type of thing, not like, you know, Seth Rogen type comedy. But, you know, India Isley, so her strength doesn't lie in characters like these, it lies in, you know, I mean, I think the only other thing I've seen her in is one of the Underworlds. So, I don't remember which one she was in, but I remember seeing her in that because I remember being like, wow, this girl's really pretty, and then looking her up. And
she is really pretty.
Yeah.
And her mom is super pretty.
Oh, yeah. She looks just like her mama.
Yeah.
Just like her mama. Olivia Hussey.
Yeah. I remember when I was a kid and I saw Romeo and Juliet, the version with Olivia Hussey in it. I remember thinking I'm like, wow, she's very pretty. And
I remember too. Yeah.
I feel like when you're a kid, I feel like when I was a kid, I can't speak for other people. When I was a kid, if I thought somebody from like the 60s or 70s was pretty, then they must really be pretty, because I generally, like, the style was so different and I was young, so I didn't really,
right.
You know, I was not drawn to like that time period, and so.
No, I totally understand.
You know what I mean?
As I've gotten older, like, people like younger Gregory Peck, I'm like, wow, he was so handsome,
Yep.
Cary Grant I thought was handsome, and Tony Curtis, and these are all actors that were from the 50s and 60s and stuff like that. But as a kid, you're right. I would have probably never even, although I did think that the guy from Romeo and Juliet was cute.
He was cute too. I thought they made, like, they were a very beautiful couple.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Super and cute. Now that we're on the subject, the what's his name? The love interest in Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Paul Barjack is the character.
Yes, I thought he was super handsome.
George Peppard.
Yeah, he was super handsome in that movie.
I visited his grave.
Really?
Yeah, it's in Dearborn.
Oh, really? Is he from there?
Yeah, he's from there, and it was just little tiny graveyard, and I was there, and I was with a friend, and we kind of went there, and we put flowers on his grave, and we said, we love you, and you brought us joy, and there's this one lady who kind of stopped us, and she's like, hey, you guys trying to find like a certain grave, like let me help you out, and she was really friendly, and we were like, actually, we're trying to find George Peppard's grave. And she's like, George Peppard? Why does that sound familiar? And I was like, he was in the A-Team and Breakfast at Tiffany's. And she's like, what? George Peppard is buried here? And I was like, yeah, we're going to go see him.
Who's this woman that's, like, wandering around the cemetery?
She was with people.
Oh, who are these people that are, like, wandering around a cemetery and offering to give you directions?
They were like...
And then she didn't even know who was buried there, so why was she offering to help?
No, she was, like, at a grave with people.
As luck would have it, you're looking for the grave that she's at, otherwise how can she help you?
I mean, it was years and years ago. I don't really remember this.
Was she even real? Maybe she was the ghost.
Maybe she was a ghost. She was a ghost.
And she was like, I'm a ghost, and I don't even know that he was buried.
Like, George Peppard, oh, I love him. We have martinis every night. It's great. Ghost martinis. Yes. They're called ghost-teenies.
They'll go right through you.
Yes. No, she was with people. She was, like, with a family.
Sure. That makes sense.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Usually when I'm in a cemetery, if I see people lost, I'm like, do you need me to help you find a grave? And then when they say, yeah, we're looking for George Peppard, I'll be like... You're out of luck, because I don't know any other grave but this one.
When I'm in a graveyard, when I'm in a cemetery, I'm just literally there to just chill. I like graveyards. I think they're really cool.
Yeah.
I especially like mausoleums. The big, beautiful, yeah. That's what I like. There's a cemetery on Eastern that's just is really pretty. There's one in Detroit, actually, and I think it's called, like, I want to say it's called Belmont, but I don't remember. But it is hands down one of the prettiest cemeteries I've ever been to. Yeah, it's like they take really good care of it, and there's all these gorgeous mausoleums, and I was like, and I think about that place all the time because I want to go back. Yeah,
I don't know, I'm not like a fan of cemeteries.
I like them.
They make me sort of uncomfortable, but I mean, I can't put my finger on it beyond the fact that it's just death. But like, I can't definitively say why.
I feel at peace there.
I don't really enjoy them, but
yeah. I feel at peace there. I don't know. I think there's obviously a lot of difference between you and I and what I like and what you like. I tend to like a lot of darker stuff.
That's true.
I mean, that's kind of more what I'm drawn to. Like, all the parts in the show that you didn't like, I loved.
Yeah.
So, like, the scenes where he's wearing the uterus mask.
Oh, I hate that.
And
that came back into play, and there was, like, a weird painting with him wearing it, and I thought, if I went to a party, or if I was, like, paid to dance at a party, basically, if anything in my life led me to a situation where a man was wearing that mask, I would make it my life's mission to stay as far away from that man as possible.
No, I totally agree with you.
It's weird, and
it's okay, just because I'm into dark stuff does not mean that I want to be in a situation where I'm going to be in danger.
Sure.
There's a difference between being at a safe distance and observing from far away versus being
if you were, like, hanging out with this really charming man and you were like, oh my gosh, this guy is so charming, and he's rich, and he's a doctor, and he's a genius, and then he goes, let me put on this mask for you. I'd be like, you know what? I have diarrhea. I have to go home. I pooped my pants, and maybe I really did because that mask is gross, and he's a bonkers man.
He's crazy.
And I wouldn't even be embarrassed that on a first date I said I pooped my pants.
I have to go. I just took a massive shit in my jeans,
pooped
man.
my pants. I have diarrhea. I can't say it enough. And then I would book it. And I would change my name and my address, and I'd move out of town.
Yeah, I agree with you. He was...
So I'm not sure...
He was crazy.
I think it would be interesting to go back in time and meet him, because I would like to see how charming he was, because...
Oh, me too.
For somebody as dark and bad... He sure did get a lot of attention.
He did, and women loved him.
Yeah, so it would be intriguing just to see what he was like, you know.
Oh, I totally agree. And that's why I was looking up, like, trying to look up, like, a documentary of his or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Just to see if there was, something where you could see how he was acting.
Yeah, like
but I didn't
talking.
find anything.
Yeah.
I only found it was Steve. And Steve looks like... He looks like Santa Claus. He looks like a jolly, like, older guy. And I'm like, oh, I love Steve. I'm like, and it made me so happy that he looked the way he did. Because I was like, he just looks like a normal, chill, like, just like a grandfatherly
and Steve
dude.
is his son.
Steve is his son, yeah. He's the one that thought that he had killed the Black Dahlia.
Mm.
So, anyway, so there is, we were talking earlier about how... Sepp was following Fauna and everything. What are you staring at? You're making me nervous.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was in a daze.
No, I am. Like,
no, I wasn't staring at anything.
Did I tell you the other day that I found, like, a piece of, like, dried food in my couch and I thought it was a bed bug and I almost had, like, an emotional breakdown over it?
No.
Ugh.
Do you want to say it on the podcast?
That's exactly what just... No, I don't care. Yeah, we can talk about it. I had bed bugs last year. They're long gone. They've been gone since July 23. No, July 20th. But it sounds better to say bed bug free since July 23.
Oh. For a second I thought, why would you lie about the date?
Because it says bed bug free since July 23.
Yeah.
And I don't know if our listeners have ever had bed bugs. I'm pretty open about it because it's a horrible experience and I think it's not something to be ashamed of because anyone can get them. But they're one of the worst things that you can ever get and it stays with you for a long time. Yeah.
I can imagine. I remember you going through that and
dude.
You were in a bad place.
I was in a horrible place.
Emotionally, and you were telling me about it and I do not blame you for being in such a bad place because it sounded horrible.
Yeah, I mean, I was going through a lot of other shit too, but that was definitely by far one of the most emotionally draining. And I mean, I'm still like, I find little just specks of like lint, and I immediately like think it's a bug, and it's just it stays with you. And I thought it would be gone. It's been a year. It's not actually been a year. But in 2 days, it will have been a year. Mm-hmm. And I still, like... And it was horrible. Like, I saw this. I found this thing. And I was, like... I started feeling like I was going to start crying. Like, I was like, oh, my God, it's another... And I'm like, oh, it's a piece of dried food. Because I eat on my couch. Because I don't have a table. Because my apartment's tiny. But, dude... Well, anyway. What were you saying? That was it. That was the whole story.
Oh, no, that sounds terrible.
It was.
I don't blame you. That sounds awful.
It was.
And you'll never have to go through it again because you're a very clean person. And the reason you got bed bugs was not because of something you did. It was because of something somebody else did.
Yes, it was.
You're a very clean
Well, that doesn't...
person.
That's the thing, though. Bed bugs don't... You can get them anywhere. Even if it's the cleanest place. Even if it's the nicest place. The most expensive hotel. If there's people there, you can get bed bugs. That's all it takes, is someone being there.
Well, I mean, they don't materialize out of nowhere.
No, I know, but, like... What I'm saying is people always identify it with being, like, clean or being dirty, and if you're dirty, then you can get bed bugs easier, but that's not true. It's just if they can feed, they can be there.
So somebody has to bring them in, though.
Yeah, I mean, you have to... They don't just materialize. They're not
right.
gonna... I mean, they can also crawl through... Not vents. I was going to say vents.
Oh my gosh. You've been listening to Stranger Things is based on bed bugs.
God, I hope
Anyway, go back to your list.
Anyway, so let's not talk about bed bugs because it's super awful. Anyway, so Fauna was not followed by a guy named Sap, obviously, but which is fine, like to have that as a fictional character.
Yeah, I didn't mind that George had somebody watching out for her.
No.
And I didn't mind even that Sap was like starting to get itchy and he wanted to kill somebody. But I did mind that they murdered him with no repercussions and no remorse.
No remorse, and the whole thing lasted like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just... Anyway, so, what I wrote down was, Fauna noticed the same people following her on numerous occasions. Before she knew what her grandfather looked like, an older gentleman got out of a limo, approached Fauna and her daughter, Yvette, in San Diego. He stopped in front of them, stared at them, but didn't say anything. Then he returned to his limo. Through pictures, Fauna later discovered that the man was her grandfather, George Hodel, and Fauna and her husband, Billy, also believed that their phones were being tapped since they could hear an echo and a clicking sound during calls.
Oh, so Fauna didn't know her grandfather until she was old enough to, like, be married with a child?
Yeah, but she also had Yvette at 16.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so when I said before that she was likely in her 20s or her 30s, I don't know how accurate that is.
Okay.
She could have been in her late teens. She could have been in her mid-teens. But either way, she met her after she had Yvette.
Okay.
So, but, because George wasn't in the United States when she met her, or when she initially wanted to reach out.
Okay,
Remember, he was in Japan. Right. So, I don't know. And that's fine. Like... I don't know. I just that's whatever. It's whatever. It's just okay. So anyway, the thing where Tamar had said that Fauna was named after a Robinson Jeffers poem, that is actually true.
Okay.
Yeah, but also Tamar was also named after Robinson Jeffers.
I
remember we talked about that. Yeah.
That's why I actually wondered if that was true or not, because I'm like, I thought Tamar was named after the...
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I think that the poem that Fauna's named after, I don't think that Tamar chose her name. I think it was George.
Really?
Yeah, because he was a fan of Robinson Jeffers and he chose the name Tamar.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and then remember, when Debbie changed her name to Fauna, her middle name was Elizabeth, which is also something he chose because she was named after Elizabeth Short.
Oh.
Yeah. So...
Was she for sure named after Elizabeth Short, or is that just a coincidence?
That's from the Root of Evil podcast.
Oh, okay.
So, which, again, I'm plugging because they're a great podcast. I got a lot of information from this whole thing from it. So, don't watch I'm the Night. Just listen to the Root of Evil podcast instead.
And listen to our other podcast episodes.
And listen to us, because we're great. We're amazing. I just... Okay, so the rest of the stuff we can talk about later. But anyway, what else did you want to talk about before we get to the end?
I
just had an issue.
Go ahead.
Anyway.
What were you going to say?
So, the paintings that Tamar had of the Georges, of all the murdered women.
Yeah.
And Jay was like, oh, I have irrefutable proof that he's the murderer, blah, blah. And I was like, you have paintings.
Yeah.
That's not proof. I can paint Elizabeth Short. Doesn't mean I murdered her. I mean, also, I was born in 87, so it's impossible unless I went back in time. But I don't think time machines exist, as far as I know.
If they do, I would have visited myself by now.
Would you have?
Probably
what would you
not,
have told yourself?
I would have said, sit down, this is how it all works out. Because I'd be an old woman. I'd be like...
Oh, okay.
I'd come back, 101, looking fine, spry. I come back and I come to my apartment and I say, hey, let me tell you what happens. But that's dangerous information. Because if you know it, then you might change it. You know? So I wouldn't actually visit myself.
Yeah. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah. No, but I think that the paintings... I got a little annoyed with the one-tracked mindness, like, I know the Black Dahlia is, like, this prolific murder. I know that, but people are murdered. Millions of people have been murdered. And he had paintings of, like, I don't know, 7 or 8 women. And he was, like, so focused on Elizabeth Short. And I thought, what about all these other women? And I also think... I agree. The paintings don't show that he killed anybody. But he did take Fauna to the basement to paint her. And there were other paintings of women in, like, bondage down there. Or, like, pseudo-bondage down there. And I don't know why they didn't... Like, I know George ran away at the end. But I don't know why they didn't take his paintings and say, look at these paintings. They're paintings of women in bondage. Look at these paintings that he did of women that got murdered. Look at this Salvador Dali painting. You know, like, why didn't they try to piece the puzzle? Why didn't they try to piece the puzzle together? Why did they run away? You know?
Right. Or, like, you know, Fauna could have been like, hey, police, I found this murder basement in my... Like, he had one of those, what is it? I don't know what they're called, but I've seen them in, like, other things where it's something that not a mortician, but oh my god, you know, the person that cuts them up, the autopsy technician? No, it's not a coroner, it's a medical examiner. That's it. Okay, I just had to work through that. I got it. It's fine. All right.
Autopsier.
Autopsy. I was like, I'm gonna get this eventually. The medical the medical examiner, it's like a place where they can clean off the body. And all the fluids or whatever will run off into like a drain. But he had that down there.
Yeah, he had a whole setup.
Right.
But I wasn't. Yeah. Well, I know that he was doing, like, his illegal abortions. Right. So I assume he was doing them down there as well.
I mean, I don't know though, because it looked like a place that you would cut up someone, or you would, like, it'd be a place where you can dispose of, like, bodily fluids.
Well, I mean, I think that's what an abortion.
Well, but I don't mean. I mean, I don't know. Maybe
I'm saying
it seemed to me.
I'm saying you're right. He had the equipment, but I assume that he had it because he was murdering people and because he was running an illegal abortion clinic. You know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, because there was that actress that was there. Remember when he, like, let her away by the hand? Yep. I think she was getting an abortion.
Oh, big time.
Yeah, definitely. But it's just. I don't know. Like, we might as well just talk about the ending while we're at it.
We're there.
Yeah. It was just so weird, and he's, like, keeping her captive in the house. And I'm not gonna lie, I was very curious as to what was gonna happen. But the entire thing where his, like, whole entire goal was to kill his granddaughter was, like,
his
super
granddaughter
weird.
/ possible daughter.
Yeah, like his.
Why did he want to murder her?
Well, right, and also, again, that, as far as I know, it's based, the series is based after the book that was written by Fauna O'Dell called One Day Shall Darken. So, I'm assuming that did not happen, because it seems like that would be something that I heard about in the podcast, or, like, I don't know, anywhere on the internet, because there's, like, endless amounts of information on there. He could have
gone, because he came back to the United States eventually, right?
Right.
Well, he would have gone to prison or be on trial or something for assaulting her.
Right. Well, I mean, you'd think,
if it was real, I mean.
Right, if it was real. I mean, but it was just like, what? It just felt so weird. Also, that room really reminded me of, did you ever see The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo?
No.
Okay. Well, Stellan Skarsgård's in it. He's the bad guy. And he has, like, a room where...
You love him.
I love him. He has a room where he, like, murders his ladies or whatever, and it looks just like that. So,
sure.
Yeah.
I found that murder rooms generally look the same.
Yeah, white tiles, so you can clean with the blood easier.
I knew that Corinna drugged her.
Yeah.
Because she's like, do you want some lemonade? And I was like, I hope she doesn't drink the lemonade. And then she drinks the lemonade. She passes out.
I didn't even catch that she was going to drug her before
Well,
she got
and then
drugged.
she said, don't eat or drink anything in his house.
Yeah.
So she was warning Fauna. So she, like, George obviously told Corinna, drug Fauna so she can come to me. And Corinna did it. And then George, like, was keeping Fauna captive in his house.
Right.
And he changed her clothes awkwardly.
Oh, the whole
Well, I mean, I
slip that she
assume
put
he
on?
changed her clothes because, yeah, like, her clothes and her underwear were laying on the dresser and she was wearing, like, a silk slip.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And then she changed out of it and they went to dinner and she wouldn't drink his wine.
Right.
And he dragged her.
He was, like, watching her drink that, too. He was, like, intently
And he dragged her to the
staring at
basement and
her.
made her put a slip back on.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
cut out the middle, man. Just keep the slip
Just
on.
keep the fucking slip on, George. Yeah, it was so weird, and it was like, why include that if it didn't fucking happen? You know?
And if you're gonna rewrite history, just make them kill George Hodel. Because the whole show was showing him as kind of like a weird sort of monster.
Right.
So she's down there. She's figuring out that he's probably murdered all these women because she sees the other paintings and he wants to paint her.
Mm-hmm.
And he's probably going to murder her, we assume. And she, like, attacks him so she can escape. And then Jay meets up with her at the house because he's going to kill George Hodel.
Mm-hmm.
And they go to the basement and George has flown the coop. He's run away.
He's completely disappeared.
And he left the country, we learn later. So the whole show, the villain is just like, he just slinks away.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
such an anticlimactic
No,
ending.
you're right. If they're gonna do it and they're gonna take it so out of context as to what the original story is,
Yeah.
he should have killed George.
He should have killed him.
Yeah. I mean,
It's just, I don't know, it was just so lame. Like,
it was. It
I
was
felt
so
like it was
bad.
like I was drinking lukewarm water.
God, and I hate lukewarm water. I have all these, like, insulated cups that I drink out of. I drink out of almost nothing else. Like, I always have ice. I love my drinks cold. So, lukewarm water.
Yeah. Be cold or hot. Don't be lukewarm.
Yeah, exactly. Either be tea or be iced tea.
Sure. Yeah.
I was just thinking it's like tea is hot. But, like, I don't know. Don't be like iced tea the person. He's already his own person. But be whoever you want to be, man.
Yeah.
Just don't steal people's identity. Or do it. Whatever.
No,
Don't do it.
We're
We're not condoning
Don't steal identities. But
theft.
listen,
Identity
the
theft.
show it was just so
It was
boring.
disappointing.
It was building up to this climax, this epic conclusion that never happened.
It was stupid.
I thought that they had this storyline of the Minotaur that I didn't understand why Jay was seeing images of the Minotaur. I don't understand why George was seeing images of the Minotaur. I have no idea what it even had to do with anything.
Well, I told you that it was.
I know, like, when...
But it doesn't have anything to do with the show.
Yeah.
They
like,
don't ever explain it.
They never tied it to anything.
Yeah, they didn't.
Ever.
There's a lot of loose ends.
Yeah.
A lot
and
of
then,
loose ends.
So, Fauna has this boyfriend in Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently she drops him the second another guy comes in because her and Terrence are in Jimmy Lee's hospital room. So we're led to believe...
I mean, he could have just driven her there. He seemed like he was a very sweet guy. The second they introduced him, I was like, he's so handsome. I was like, stars in my eyes. I was like, Jesus Christ, that guy is so good looking. I mean, my God. Like, I was like bowled over. Like, I was just like, wow. But... Well, they kind of kissed, but it wasn't like a romantic kiss.
I don't know. I don't know what was going on between them. They just...
She didn't drop her boyfriend because she told him that she missed... Or she, like, called his house and said that she missed him. Remember?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, but there was...
Not enough of that. Like, if they're going to add that storyline, they needed to do more with it.
Yeah, I agree.
Or just leave it out.
Right. There's no reason for... His name was Lewis.
There's no reason for Lewis. There's no reason for Terrence, really.
No. I mean, Terrence, like... helped her out with a couple things, but you're right. There's no big reason for him to be there.
Mm-hmm.
They can take him out. The cousin could have taken her there.
There's like random, out of nowhere storylines of like race riots in Los Angeles.
Oh yeah, that was
in
super
the last
fucking
episode,
weird.
and that was like just thrown in. Like, did they have 3 extra minutes? And they go, we don't know what to fill this with. Well, let's just fill it with race riots.
It was
for no
so
reason.
Weird. Yeah.
No, it served no purpose.
No, it didn't. And okay, so like when that guy hawked like a big loogie on his dude, I was like obsessing with the fact that he wasn't cleaning it off his windshield.
So gross.
I was like just hit the button. Just hit the button and clean it. Just hit it, please. Would you please do it? Like I was like staring at this loogie like so grossed out because that stuff grosses me out. And he wouldn't do it. Like, and I'm the type of person who, like, the second a little splatter of, like, bird poop gets on there, I'm, like, holding that thing down until it's gone.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I want it. Like, it's gotta be gone. But, yeah, you're right. The race riots were really out of place.
Super
There was
weird.
no mention of them previously.
No.
Like if it had been something like, oh, you know, the streets aren't safe because there's all those riots out there, like, and if they continuously kind of brought it up, you know, that'd be one thing, and it accumulated, but there was no reason for it to be there because it didn't have any effect whatsoever on the main storyline.
On anything.
Yeah, no, it wasn't like a side subplot that had to do with anyone else, and it was just like, and it wasn't even like Nero died from some, you know, corrupt cop killing him or whatever. It was just like, it was Sepp. You know, I mean, that's what we assume, anyway. And
it was like a pointless, it was just like making the story even more messy and pointless.
Yeah, I just can't stop rolling my eyes at that show.
I would not recommend it.
No, I wouldn't either.
Even when I first started watching it, I thought it was pretty slow.
Yeah. And
I was on the fence, but I would not recommend it.
I wouldn't either. Definitely not. It's just a poorly written show, unfortunately. And I wonder, too, if... And I kept thinking about this as I was watching it, because Patty Jenkins had produced it, you know, and she directed Wonder Woman. I kept thinking, like, man, I wonder if this would have been a lot better if she had directed it. You know? But I don't know, because it doesn't necessarily mean that she's, you know, it's a script, so...
I think that, the writer...
It's the writing.
The writing. She might have been able to coax a better performance.
Right. Well, she might have made the pacing increase the pacing, right.
But, I mean, I think that there was some fundamental flaws in the way the story was put together.
I agree.
And the writing.
Yeah.
And then just the direction it took, I think it was... I read a small review, and I think it was trying to be like a noir, which kind of makes sense, but I think they missed the mark a little bit. And it's sad because like the old Hollywood mystery aspect is pretty fun, you know, but they just
and
it didn't land.
No, and noir doesn't feel like the way that show felt. You know, there's more, I don't know how to, like, explain it, but there's more of a mystique to it. You know, there's more of just like an underlying sense of you feel uneasy, you know. There were certain parts that had that, but for the most part, I want to talk to you about The Happening, too.
Oh, yeah.
That scene, yeah.
Not the M. Night Shyamalan movie.
No, that was also terrible. It was really bad. The plants are killing people.
Oh my gosh, I was so excited about The Happening. The trailers, I couldn't get enough of watching the trailer.
Yeah.
And I was so pumped about it. And then me and my friends went and saw it. And I feel like my jaw about to hit the floor, and I was like, no, I was waiting for this.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I understand. It's kind of like how I felt about Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
The wound is still deep, my friends. It's so deep. I still talk about it all the time. But yeah, no, so The Happening, that was interesting.
That was episode 4.
Yes. I liked that whole thing. I thought that was pretty cool, except for when the whole Sepp thing was stupid. but where Karina was doing the performance art and all those people were cutting off parts of her dress was kind of neat, I thought.
No, I thought it was pretty cool. I liked when Fauna first walked into the happening, because she was dressed how she would have dressed to go to like a party, and then she realized like, oh, that's not what this is. So she like took her jewelry off so she could fit in better. And I thought that was interesting because like the times were changing, you know, like it's like it was like the mid 60s, 1965, I think, right?
Yeah.
So I like that aspect of like now this, you know, what you're used to is not what is going to be the norm for the next X amount of time, you know. So I liked that. It was almost like she was walking into the future, you know.
Yeah. But I mean that whole scene with Karina and everything was very, like, made me feel very uneasy, but I liked that it made me feel uneasy because it like ignited my excitement for what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And I liked that Fauna was like looking at the dress like she was maybe gonna cut it, and then she's like, "No, I don't want to do this," and she walked away. I thought that was cool, but then the rest of it was just so stupid.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm curious why she kept going back to Karina. If only just because maybe Karina was the only one who would talk to her from the Hodel family, but I don't know.
I don't know. It's just the whole show, the way they went about it, had so much build up and just left you feeling so disappointed.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, and there was all these little bits and pieces of all these little interesting scenes that you're like, wow, this is cool, this is compelling, what's going to happen next? But then it leaves you like, it's like eating a steak and you're like expecting it to be like, you like medium rare, or you like medium, right? I like medium rare. Like expecting it to be medium rare, but it's like, well done. And so you're like, oh my god, I've been waiting for the steak all day, and then you bite into it and you're like, what's even the point of eating the steak now?
Yep.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. It was just like, cool. Like, I was so excited for I Am the Night, and now I'm just like,
I was really surprised that you didn't like it, because I
hated it.
I wasn't surprised that I didn't like it, because I didn't like most of it, in terms of just it being so boring. But when you were texting me, and you were so upset about it, I was really shocked.
I was kind of thinking that you were going to think that I was going to like it too, actually.
I
did not. I hated it.
Shocked. But
I was super disappointed.
But you finished the series before I did. If I had... Probably by the time I got to episode 6, I might have started thinking, I wonder if Lauren will like this. But I'm still shocked at how much you didn't like it. So.
And the biggest part was because it was so historically inaccurate. Oh, let me see if there's anything else that I wrote down, because I wrote down a bunch of stuff.
Final thoughts?
Let's see. I think there's like... Oh, I did write... Oh, okay, so there's one little thing when Fauna met Debbie, because she did actually meet her kids when she met Tamar. Debbie warned her to be wary of Tamar, and Debbie later said that Fauna thanked her all her life for warning her about Tamar.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. So, because Debbie was, I mean, I would say Debbie was probably in her, like, early teens or something. Okay. So she was, like, she definitely wasn't a little kid like she was in the movie, or the show, I mean.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, she was very aware of how bad Tamar was, because Tamar was, like, selling her out to her friends, you know? She was letting her friends have sex with Debbie and stuff. Yeah. And with the kids, with the sons, too.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like sex with them.
All of them were being prostituted?
I think Love was the baby, and I don't think he had it as much, but I think they still all did, yeah.
Gee,
yeah.
That's so sad.
Yeah, I mean, Fauna rescued them. Yeah. Basically, she took them out of their home, and she gave them a little home in Hawaii, and so it's kind of a happy ending. I mean, a little bit, but anyway, I don't know if I told you this or if I said on the last podcast, but Steve Hodel actually has George Hodel's DNA, and finding out if George is a Black Dahlia murder is as simple as the LAPD running the DNA and comparing it to the DNA they found at the scene.
You did say that.
Yeah. Oh, damn. Oh, so I also wrote that Tamar would often pit her children against one another, and she would talk negatively about them, and it created a lot of distrust and tension among her children because she didn't want them to gang up on her.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, Tamar was really messed up.
Wow.
Yeah, that's all I have. That's all. So again,
closes the book on.
Yeah. Reality is stranger than fiction, and in this case, it's a lot more interesting. So I think are you done talking about it?
I think I'm done.
Yeah. So the overall feeling about this is that we're bummed. We're bummed and I'm sad. Sad and disappointed. Anyway, follow us on Facebook. We also have Instagram. Please subscribe and like our stuff, you know. Any reviews we can get, hopefully positive ones, would be great. We also are on SoundCloud and iTunes and Spotify. So thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Bye.